Hello and welcome to The Explainer. Today we are cracking the code on asking questions in English. We're going to build the perfect question piece by piece, starting right now. So, does this look familiar? It's a puzzle a lot of English learners run into. I mean, all the right words are there, they're just not in the right order. But don't worry, by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to fix this and, more importantly, why it works that way. Here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the two fundamental question types. Then we'll dive into the actual blueprints for building both yes/no questions and WH questions. After that, we'll see how they work out in the real world and, finish with a really cool twist called the echo question. All right then, first things first. Pretty much every single question you can ask in English falls into one of two basic categories, and getting this difference is the absolute foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. It all boils down to one simple thing. What kind of answer do you want? Are you just looking for a simple confirmation, a yes or a no? Well, that's a yes/no question. Or do you need a specific detail, like a name, a place, a reason? That's when you grab a WH question. The goal really does determine the tool. So, yes/no questions are super straightforward. You might hear them called polar questions because they give you two opposite poles for an answer, yes or no. Their only job is to get one of those two replies, and you'll notice they often start with a little helper verb, like do, are, was, or can. W questions, on the other hand, are the complete opposite. Think of them like little information-seeking missiles. They demand details, the specific parts or constituents of a story. You can't just answer, "When did you get here?" with yes. You've got to provide some real info, like, "Oh, about half an hour ago." Okay, so we know what they are. But now, how do we actually build them? Let's start with the blueprints for those simple, direct yes/no questions. There are really just two main patterns you need to get down. The formulas here are actually pretty simple. If your main verb is to be, words like are, is, was, all you do is flip the verb and the subject. You are hungry becomes, are you hungry? Easy. For pretty much every other verb, you just call in a helper word, an auxiliary verb like do, did, or can. And that order is always the same. Auxiliary, then the subject, then the main verb. And here's a perfect example of that second pattern in action. See how Sarah asks, "Did you get here on time?" She's following that formula perfectly. Auxiliary did, then the subject you, and then the main verb get. It just sounds clean and natural. Okay, here's a super important tip to remember. When you use do or does as your helper verb, the main verb that comes after it just stays in its simplest, most basic form. You don't need to add an S or anything else. The does is already doing the heavy lifting, grammatically speaking, so the main verb gets to chill. Does she play piano? Perfect. All right. Let's switch gears and look at the other side of the coin. Who questions are a little more complex, for sure, but they also follow clear blueprints. And once you see the pattern, you can ask for pretty much any piece of information you can think of. So first things first, you have to pick the right tool for the job. Each of these question words has a very specific target. Who is always for a person, where is for a place, why is for a reason, and so on. This choice is your very first step in putting together your question. Now, this next part is subtle, but it's incredibly important. Sometimes you're asking about the subject, the person or thing that's actually doing the action, as in who loves Lucy, but other times you're asking about the object, the person or thing that's receiving the action, as in who does Lucy love. The entire sentence structure changes depending on which one you're asking about. So when you're asking about the subject, take a look at how the structure stays really close to a normal sentence. Question word, verb, object. Who won the game? It's simple and direct because that question word, who, is basically just stepping in to take the place of the subject. And this is the big one. Most of the why questions you're going to ask are going to be object questions. And the formula should look pretty familiar by now. Question word, followed by that auxiliary helper verb, then the subject, and finally the main verb. What did you do? It is the most common and versatile question pattern in English, hands down. Okay, so we've got the blueprints down, but language isn't just a set of rules in a textbook. It's all about communication. So let's take a look at how these question forms kind of bend and adapt in real-world situations. So sometimes you ask a question directly, right? But other times, you're just reporting a question that someone else asked. That's the difference between a direct and an indirect question. But look closely at how the word order changes. In that indirect question, where the station is, the verb is comes after the subject station, just like it would in a regular statement. And these indirect questions are incredibly flexible. They don't just report what someone said. They can be the object of a verb like asked, or they can follow an adjective like sure. They can even become the entire subject of a whole new sentence. They are such a powerful tool for tucking questions inside your own statements. So far, we've covered all the rules for asking for information. But what if getting information isn't your goal at all? Let's look at a special, kind of advanced type of question used in spoken English for a completely different reason. And this is where the echo question comes into play. It's not about finding something out. It's a reaction. It's about signaling that what you just heard was so unexpected, so shocking, that you just have to repeat it back, either because you're genuinely confused or, more often, to express a strong emotion. Okay, just imagine hearing this statement. It's shocking, right? A normal information question like, what did her father do, just doesn't quite capture the emotion of that moment. This comparison says it all. You could use a standard question where the what moves to the front, but for real shock value, you use an echo response. You leave the question word what right where it is, in situ, at the very end of the sentence. He did what? That rising tone on that last word says everything. It's not a request for information, it's an explosion of pure disbelief. And there you have it. From the two basic types, through all the different structural blueprints, and all the way to advanced emotional responses. Remember that jumbled sentence from the beginning? Did you go anywhere interesting last weekend? You know exactly how that works now, and why. You officially have the blueprints to put together clear, correct, and effective questions for pretty much any situation. So really, the only question left is, what are you going to ask first? Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.